So Highland Noise Podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Glory.
And we're here with
Eric from Heart Attack, man.
And some questions to say about the new album, Joyride The Pale Horse. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to the album so far?
Oh, man, I feel great. Thank you. It feels great. The response has been amazing so far, and we're really excited to get out and after it and get on tour to promote it.
Oh, yeah. You're leaving like a week, right?
We're leaving for Australia on Monday. So less than a week.
Damn.
Still kind of hasn't fully set in yet for me. I am, if anything, a horrible procrastinator, so I haven't even begun thinking about packing yet. So I should probably get on that soon.
You
Maybe
probably
start thinking
should.
about it.
I'll start thinking about it, and then
Exactly.
I'll still do it the night before. But
it's good. You started thinking about it now, Thursday, before you leave, and then Sunday night you can pack.
Normally I would start thinking about it Sunday morning and then do it Sunday. Yeah, so I guess a good thing I'm thinking about it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It'll
still be last minute.
Prepped and ready to go.
Yeah, I'm not excited about the flight, but I am extremely excited to go to Australia for the first time. So
it should be dope.
Yeah. Any sort of nerves? Like, I know, it's one thing to play the UK, but a whole nother thing for an American band to conquer the Down Under.
Well, here's the thing. Like I said, first time going to Australia. I've never been.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I watch a lot of geography videos and sort of I don't know, just nerd videos on YouTube that just kind of talk about places and locations within different places. I guess that sounded so silly. Touristy videos,
Yeah.
And from what I gather, I could be horribly off with this, at risk of being a presumptuous tourist.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that Australia and parts of the United States, at least, have a lot in common culturally.
Okay.
And it's my working theory that America and Australia are both kind of the we're both kind of the redneck sons and daughters of Britain.
Yeah.
That got left out in the sun too long.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm not very nervous about I don't anticipate a whole lot of culture shock per se.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike the first time that we went to Germany, I experienced a culture shock.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say when it comes to I mean even with England, it's I enjoy it over there a lot. It's definitely there are small things that are different from home, but it's not completely different universe, I guess. So I don't know. I'm not the main thing that I'm nervous about, which I'm nervous about with any tour, is just holding up physically. I don't want. It's always the fear of fortunately, knock on wood, I'm in my car, so there's of course no wood around me right
plenty.
now. Okay, so thank you. Yeah. Knock on wood, I haven't had to ever miss a show because of my voice blowing out or anything, or haven't had that happen. So that's always kind of the looming fear of mine, though, is that as I said that, there was a little clap of thunder.
Oh God.
But
Shit.
yeah, but I don't know. That's always an anxiety of mine, is losing my voice. But that's why I warm up and try to learn things as I go and get better at singing.
Yeah.
But that's where the vast majority of my anxiety on the road comes from, is purely just that. So I don't know. It's been a while since we've been on tour. This past fall and winter we played a couple shows, but the last time that we were out on an actual tour was around about this time last year with Microwave. So I mean, a year ultimately is not that long to be off the road, but for us it's felt like forever. So
Yeah.
Might take a little bit longer for me to kind of get back in the swing of things. I don't know. But I'm excited. I'm not all that nervous. Just, the normal general anxieties.
Yeah. And I think that those are all perfectly fine anxieties to have. I mean, you have a job to do every night. If you lose the thing that makes you do your job, you have a problem.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's so hard being a singer.
So hard being a vocalist.
Oh.
Work so hard.
I'm just a tortured soul.
Oh man.
My God. You believe it.
The album is awesome, dude.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah.
I have to be professional, so I'm gonna keep it simple. This album has been one of my most anticipated records since it was announced, and I want to say that it did not disappoint at all.
Oh, I'm happy to hear that. Maybe you're like, I got to keep it I got to keep this professional, and you're like, it fucking sucked. I hate it.
Never release ever again.
Listen, I got to be professional. I got to be honest. Like, I hate you, and your music sucks.
I did not want to be here today, honestly. I'm just,
Yeah. You're like, no, I really appreciate that. I'm glad that it didn't disappoint.
Yeah.
That was a big part. That was a big part of us being off the road for the past year was, we wanted to kind of take ourselves out and work on the record, go into the studio and like be fully in studio mode and not have it be like, okay, we just finished up this tour and now we're going to the studio, or we're going to the studio and immediately after we're going on tour. We kind of wanted to just chill and like decompress and let ourselves breathe, have a moment at home to really just kind of unwind and get into that mindset of being able to make the best record we can. So again, how you were asking earlier about how I feel about the response. I feel the response so far has been amazing, and it's made it all worth it that we're like, okay, we made the right decision, kind of like taking ourselves out and, putting ourselves in that mindset to really get into the studio mode. Because everything else we've done in the studio has like, we've never really done that before. It's always come at, hot off the heels of something or right before something, or like, Thoughts and Prayers we recorded like sort of in the middle of lockdown in 2020. So like, it's always either like extenuating or like particular circumstances right after or before something where we're used to making records. So it was nice to just kind of chill and give ourselves that time this time, and it was really rewarding.
Absolutely. Was there a particular reason for like kind of saying we're going to take the rest of the year off and focus solely in on the album, or was it just like kind of how the band's schedule fell?
It's a little bit of both. It's kind of how our schedule fell, but then also that was something that we had considered after Freak of Nature, the last album, because let me think. My memory is so bad. We did so we recorded Freak of Nature like right after a tour essentially, and then like right after we finished we played like a one-off show, and it was like we had just had such a busy year of touring that year, so like I don't know, we were up for that, and I'm glad. I wouldn't have changed anything per se, like, because I mean it's all in the experience, but we were very kind of like go, got into the studio, and like I still really appreciate that era of the band and how we did that album, because it was in many ways kind of an experiment for us. We were really deliberately sort of pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone in more ways than one, and it was like I think that overall we're very happy with the end result, the record. Like, we're still very proud of it, but when it was all said and done, I'm glad we did it that way, but also I was like, okay, I don't necessarily want to do the same thing and just like make a record immediately after a bunch of touring and stuff. It was like we kind of wanted to switch it up and do something we hadn't done before.
Yeah.
And it was like there was a part of it where there's always a part of it with us where we'll kind of make some sort of plan. We'll like devise a plan, but we're not going to be like needlessly stubborn about it or rigid. Like if something comes up that is like an opportunity that's like too good to pass up, we're not going to be stubborn about it per se, So, but this time around, that was kind of like the general blueprint, thinking a ways out from it. We're like, okay, like how do we want to approach this, and how do we want this to kind of fall into place for ourselves? And the more that we sat with and the more that we thought about it, it just made a bit more sense to like, give ourselves a little bit of time off the road. And the idea was like, okay, let's get into that space creatively, but then also, we record and release the record, and then by the time that it's out, it will have been a while since a lot of our fans have seen us. So hopefully, unless if the album fucking sucks, then people should be excited, a bit more excited to see us, So we were like, kind of wanted to, like take ourselves out of the picture for a little bit. This past fall and winter, I feel like was an exceptionally busy touring season. Like I feel like there was something happening every week, multiple times a week. There'd be like multiple shows like every week. It seems that I myself had a hard time keeping up with everything that I wanted to go to. And that was, being at home. Like it was hard to keep up as is. That, I'm in a way kind of glad that we weren't out while everyone else was out, I guess.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Wow.
And just focusing on the record. Yeah.
Yeah. So your guys' thought process while creating the record, you guys weren't thinking about like leaving kind of the music scene for a minute to go into the studio as a negative and worrying about like, oh shit, because we're out of the eye, what if no one cares? You guys were seeing it as almost building anticipation. That is the exact opposite as I would have thought. That's so great, and that is exactly what fucking happened.
It is kind of hard because I feel like anyone doing anything creative, you have this tendency to be like, go, you got to always be promoting. You always got to be promoting something. And like I think that it's it's a good quality to have, to want to like put yourself out there and kind of quote unquote market yourself, I guess, and promote what you're doing. It's like you care about it, you want to share it with the world. I think there in many ways it's good to want to be adamant about promoting yourself. But also I think as things evolve and the climate kind of changes, I feel like that now is like so far and away the norm of what's to be expected that it's like I myself just on a personal level have felt like sometimes when I'm scrolling through social media, it just feels like everything's an ad, and it feels like whether or not it's an actual sponsored post or someone is trying to sell you something. I've been kind of like a healthy amount of cynical in a way. I think where I don't know. I get the sense I'm like, okay, well, like I'm watching this video. What is it that this person is trying to sell me on? And it's like, is it something as simple as just like following them or subscribing to their channel or something, or is it something deeper? I don't know. And I feel like the endless barrage of promotion and advertising, it just gets pretty exhausting. And I think as a scene and as like, I feel like not as a culture at large, but like, certain subcultures, I guess, will reach this point of burnout. I never want to come off like I'm like, oh, I'm trying to be like a prophet, like prophesizing the future. But I don't know. I just feel like it makes sense to me that there can only be so much, and you can only like advertise and promote so much, that it's like you can't force people to like what you're doing or even check it out. You know, it's kind of like, I think, and I've been in that mode before of like, you know, constantly promoting and constantly being active, all of that. And as I get older, it's just like, I don't know, there's a part of me that I'm like, there's a point where it begins to feel forced and unnatural to like still be in that mode all the time. And yeah, I think that kind of filters into the music side of things, where it's like, yeah, we took this approach of how we wanted to make the record. And you know, maybe if I was younger, I would view that as like, oh, we're like not going on tour for this season. We're like irrelevant now. I'm gonna fall off and be worried about that. And it's like, I mean, if so, then be that as it may. It's like, I don't want to burn ourselves out on the road for no reason. I want to continue making music and doing this forever. I mean, you know, until I die. It's like, even if no one's listening, it's like, it's just a part of who we are, and like, it's what feels right. Like, making music just is like a baseline impulse at this point, that it's like, and you know, I feel like it's important to nurture that and not get burnt out on it, and not feel like our creative impulses are being rendered into like feeling like a job.
Absolutely.
I don't want to like suck the life out of it, you know, just to get like 10 more people to check us out. You know, it's like,
yeah.
That makes total sense.
Is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
Yeah, definitely. So Joyride the Pale Horse really was like the first song of the whole batch of songs that like really took shape and like started to for me, it started to feel like there was some kind of creative narrative that was presenting itself. Because like, I typically don't go into writing anything with like this grand idea per se. You know, it's like, I'm not going in like, okay, this is going to be our record about this. You know, it's like, I kind of just write, and then whatever kind of stands out to me or speaks to me, it's really hard to like exactly pinpoint and put into words how it feels, because it's so like intangible and indescribable. But like, I don't know, it's just like, I feel like any creative person understands like sort of the I guess like the voice from the ether, that's like the inspiration, that's you know, kind of like making the idea of everything that you're working on vibrate at that higher level, I guess. And for me, Joyride the Pale Horse, the song, was the one that really first kind of, it kind of sunk its teeth into where I was at. And I was like, okay, this, like, I can't ignore this. This is kind of the one that like, you know, is making me think a bit deeper about like where this is all going to go. And the idea behind that song, you know, was really this sort of like, not taking itself too seriously and not getting too like grand and theatrical, but like just talking about death in a bunch of different ways, like without actually saying death or like dying or, you know, the D word, I guess, but like say, you know, talking about it and coming up with these different sort of allusions to death. And I don't know, that just like, it was a really fun exercise in a way. And then that in turn sort of like turned into this idea of like, you know, death is always there and we're always like cognizant of it. We always like, I feel like impulsively we're all scared of dying. And it's like, you go through your life trying to avoid talking about it and trying to avoid, you know, like confronting it in any way until it happens, you know, to someone you love or whatever. It's like, it's so inevitable. And so it's, you know, the only thing that's promised in life is dying. And we go through our lives, you know, generally avoiding talking about it or trying to stave off dying. You know, you're trying, it's survival in a nutshell. But really that is like the general concept of the album, was to like again, it's not like a deeply conceptual album, but like I like there to be like themes going on in our works, because like I think if there isn't an idea that kind of ties it all together, then it's not really an album. You
Yeah.
know, it just kind of comes off as a playlist to me.
Yep.
It's like, okay, here's like 10, 12, whatever songs that don't have anything to do with each other. The only thing that ties them together is the marketing of it and how they're like it's just released together, you know?
Yeah,
So like,
that's it.
to me, I feel like a true album has to like bring more to the table than that. I mean, it doesn't have to. I mean, you could have a crappy album, but like
Yeah.
to me, what I want to do is like I want it to like vibrate a little higher than that and kind of have a theme that sort of links it all together and makes it all make sense, makes it feel like a cohesive work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like the general overarching theme was one of death, that like and finding different ways to talk about it really and kind of like reference it, whether it's super literal or if it's a bit more ambiguous and figurative, or you know, if we're if it's a bit more sad, or you know, a bit snarky and kind of sarcastic, and you know, just finding different ways to kind of, you know, dance with it, I guess.
Yeah,
That's the overarching theme, I guess. And to answer your question about like the album art, I was just really thinking, you know, I was like, okay, Joyride the Pale Horse. I feel like there's a lot of imagery that can go into that. It's very biblical in a sense, you know, with like the four horsemen of the apocalypse, all that. But you know, I was thinking, I'm like, okay, I think it could be cool to kind of have some sort of tie-in that is like horse related, but again, in keeping with this theme of like talking about death, or like with the title track of like talking about death without saying death. I was like, how do we kind of convey this image of horses without using horses? And I was like, oh, like horseshoes could be cool.
Yeah.
And doing that, like having just this big pile of rusty horseshoes. The idea that I was rolling with, you know, when like taking the photos for it, was like, okay, it's like supposed to be this illusion, or like a kind of like saying it without saying it, but it's like it's a pile of horseshoes because the horseshoes have been removed from the horses because they're all dead, and it's like stacking in a pile, just like a sort of grim, grotesque pile of horseshoes.
Yeah.
Love that.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
So what song off the album took longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite?
Okay. Good question. I think the one that took the longest to write, I guess, well, I would say it was probably End of the Gun, because like being being like truthful about it, the main riff, what started, like the starting idea for that song I had like 5 years ago. You know, it's like it's not a fresh new idea, but it's one that I've kind of had that was never quite ready, but I really liked it. It just needed to kind of undergo a few different phases of change before it became what it is now.
Yeah.
So I would say that one took the longest, just because the first iteration of that song that I had, like I said, is about 5 years old. And you know, it's gone through a few different changes, and then like even up until, you know, not too long before we recorded it, I mean, the key change that happens in that song was like the last addition to it, where I was like, I think it could be cool if we did it. It might be kind of wacky, but like I had a demo version of it without the key change, and then it occurred to me, I was like, oh man, this could be really cool if we do this, and tried it, recorded, like added it into the demo. And I was like, all right, sending it to Adam and Ty. I'm like, what do you guys think? Like A, B, these, and like, do you think it's time we go for a key change? Because that was like a big goal. Like I've wanted to do that for a while. But I think if you attempt a key change and it's not absolutely fire, then it just sucks. You know, it sounds really corny.
Yeah.
So it's gotta be right. So I was like, I've been wanting to like do that for years and years now, but it just was never totally right. Until now, and I am happy we did it. But I'd say that song took the longest to get from point A to where it is now.
Yeah.
And then I would say what the second question was, what's my favorite?
Yes.
I'd say my favorite still is Lay Down and Die.
Okay.
Damn straight.
That one's been really special for me. It's a very personal song. But I don't know, there's just something about it. Like whenever I love every song on the album, and I feel like this album is very effectively sequenced, because like I feel like the track listing of an album is very important. You know, you could have an album, and if the track listing is off, then it like throws off the entire vibe of you know, the whole thing. It's got to flow right. So like I really like how this album flows. And I love, you know, every song on it, but Lay Down and Die has always been one that kind of like stood out to me a little more, and like really just kind of like resonated that much deeper for me. Like when we were in the studio, I was like, that was the one I was like itching to get into the most. And I forget exactly when we got into it. I kept a journal while we were there, so I could go back and reference it. But like we didn't dive right into it. You know, it wasn't like the first song we did. So I was like itching to get into it, and especially that song. And once it started taking shape, and I started really hearing it as it is, like ever since we've had the song done, and when we've played it, it's like I always get chills. So it's very like it's not the only. I mean, I'd say it's the only song on the album where I've consistently gotten chills like every time, and when we've played it, like I felt it felt surreal, you know. So like I would say that one's still got to be my favorite. And you know, it changes where like there'll be times where I listen when we were like listening back to mixes and everything, I'd be like, oh man, like this one sounds so good. But like I feel like that one just nudges out a little bit ahead of the rest for me personally.
I mean, you said it gives you chills every time you play it. I would say that's a fair enough reason to say it's your favorite.
I feel like that's a good barometer generally for like a song that is good to me, unless if I'm not in a chills getting mood. You know, if I'm if it's like, what's your favorite song that like doesn't give you chills? I'd be like, well shit. I mean, Lay Down and Die is immediately out of the running for that.
Yeah, fuck.
Yeah.
God damn it.
So you actually mentioned the track listing, so I'm very curious as to what the process was, kind of arranging it and landing on the final product.
Yeah, so that's a great question. Going into this album, one thing that we did differently from Freak of Nature was that with Freak of Nature, we kind of had like we went in and we got what we got. You know, we kind of like knew what the songs that we had were what we worked on and what we ended up with. It sounds silly, but I swear I'm going somewhere with it, because like it was 10 songs and we went in with, well, I'd say actually we kind of went in with like 9 songs, and then figured out like the last sort of song that we kind of figured out and landed on was one that we had for a little bit. Or it was like we had an instrumental that we were sitting on for a while, and that was, so I guess like 9.5 songs, or 9.5. And then we figured it out, and we're like, okay, cool. We landed it, like it worked itself out. But this time, another thing that we kind of wanted to do differently was go in with like an overabundance of songs. And this time, rather than like going in, I mean, I knew from the start, I was like, I want to do more than 10 songs, because I feel like 10 is it's safe. It's like predictable. Like, I don't think anyone, like if you see 10 songs on an album, you're like, no one's gonna be like, oh man, this isn't enough songs. Like it's a very reliable number. But I wanted to do more. Like I was like, I really would like to do 12. And so instead of just going into the studio with 12 songs, we went in with like 19. You know, we had 19 full complete songs with like, music and lyrics. And then I would say, a small handful of instrumental ideas that, I mean, I'm sure if we really sat down with them, we could have fleshed them out totally. But like we had 19 full songs that we went in with that we could have laid down at any point and tracked. Any of which I would have been happy if they were on the record. So we went in with, like I said, 19 songs. When we were on our way to, it's like we had all these songs, but we knew that we wanted to like do 12. And there was no real like rhyme or reason for that. It's not like we were like, oh, like there's this like deep meaning behind wanting to do 12 songs. It wasn't, it wasn't that deep, but like I just want to do more than 10, I guess. But
why the hell not?
Yeah. So we decide, the thing is though, we didn't decide on, there were certain songs where we're like, okay, we know this one's gonna be on the album. Uh like the title track, obviously.
Yeah.
But there are certain ones where like Laughing Without Smiling, since we've had the demo, we're like, okay, this is for sure gonna be on the album. Like it would take a lot for this song to not be on the album. So like we had ideas of songs that were easily agreeable, that none of us, we were like, yeah, that one's for sure going on. But then we didn't decide totally, like we didn't decide on the 12 that we were going to do until we were driving to the studio.
Damn.
Which it was like it was like a 7-hour drive, because the studio's in New Jersey and we're in Cleveland. So like we were in the car together and we had time to talk about it, but we didn't decide until we were on the way. And there were a couple songs that I personally felt pretty strongly about, that I was like, these songs like are amazing. I feel like they belong on the album. And that's not to say that what we ended up with, like I said, I was happy with all the songs. And it's not like what we ended up with I was like compromising per se, because we had like a productive creative conversation about it, because like I made my case for these two songs, and then in talking about it with Adam and Ty, they were kind of on a different they had a different idea of what like instead of those two songs, what they had in mind. And I truthfully, I can't at the moment recall what they were. Like I know which songs I was thinking about and sort of leaning towards, but I can't remember which ones like like made the cut ahead of them, I guess. Can't remember, but we were talking about them and I was like, I really like these songs, and like here's why, X, Y, and Z. And they're like, okay, that's cool, like we understand that and appreciate that. But from what they were hearing from like the demos, they're like, well, have you considered that like this song that you really want to do like kind of has a similar thing going on to this song that is already for sure on the album? I'm like, oh yeah, you know what, I didn't think about it that way. And like they're like, that's not to say it isn't a good song, but like maybe we do this because this brings something to the album that totally isn't there yet. It's like I there's a couple like these two songs that I was kind of like really feeling for. I I've felt for them very heavily, but I think in a creative sense, the right decisions were made, and like what we ended up with, it was the right call. Just because it's like I think every song in a way kind of brings something unique to the table. And if it was completely up to me and completely my call, I think we might have ended up with like in hindsight might have ended up with an album where maybe a couple of the songs there might have been qualities of them that like I'm sure our fans would love the songs, but we might have found ourselves in a place where we were kind of hitting the head of the nail twice, for certain songs or certain ideas, I guess. So I am glad that we, rather than just like going for that because that's how I felt, we opted for what was actually sort of more creatively important to like the health of the album.
Absolutely.
Completely fair. Curious, because you guys came out with 12, went in with 19. will those extra, what is that, 7 songs ever see the light of day? I'm saying this as I'm turning off the interviewer and turning on the greedy, awful fan side
Yeah.
of me. So just
Um,
gotta be honest.
Truthfully, I don't know.
Okay.
I there's it's hard to say
Mhm.
because there is like, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like there's so many songs. I regret I'm here to regretfully inform our fans that like there are so many Heart Attack Man songs
Yeah.
that are just like on the chopping block, never
Mhm.
made it out, you know, and
Mhm.
you'll never hear them.
Yeah.
And someone's just honking like crazy.
Going
Um,
crazy out there.
Yeah.
They're
yeah,
pissed.
Yeah.
They're pissed to hear
yeah,
that.
that has some stank on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of there is a, you know, there's a small graveyard of Heart Attack Man songs that never made it out. Um, you know, never made it out of the demo phase.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I think there's definitely like a couple songs. There's a couple songs that I can, you know, kind of confidently say will not see the light of day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one that I can think of off the top of my head that could be worthwhile to maybe revisit, and it might, because the thing is, I'm like a raving lunatic, and you know, when we have an album that is that we're like working on an album that's coming out, naturally I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start writing more.
The
Like,
next
why
one.
stop?
New stuff.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
why stop? Like, you know, so like I have been hard at work already working on new stuff. No like hard set, you know, I'm like, okay, we're gonna like tour for this long and then we're gonna be in the studio. I don't know when the next stuff will come out, but it's just what I do. You know, like I said, it's an impulse and I just don't stop really like working on ideas.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So there are songs that have that I've started writing that like since we were in the studio. There's a lot of them actually. Um, and know how I don't know if, you know, if any of the ones I'm working on, I don't know if I don't know if they'll survive. Who's to say?
Yeah.
But I also don't know how the songs that predated the studio time for Joyride, how those would fit in with these. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Fair.
Yeah, I guess the short answer, or the short answer after my long raving answer to your question is I don't know.
Fair enough.
Drug. I get it. That's fair. That's fair, man.
I know we touched on like the process of picking which songs we're going to make the record, but did we touch on the actual sequencing part of the question about the track listing?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, that there wasn't like really all I can say that I knew for certain. I say with most like with not like complete certainty, but I was like really wanting to lean towards this and kind of try to make this happen because the idea was very attractive to me and very enticing. Was two of the earliest songs that were written for this album were One More Song, which is the opening song, and then Joyride, which is the closer.
Closer.
And like those were songs that I was like, man, there's something really enticing to me about having One More Song be the opening track and having Joyride be the closing track. Cause I'm like, I don't know, there's something cool about like they're both in the same key. One More Song, I just thought it would be funny to have the album start with One More Song rather than like second to last.
Yeah.
And Joyride, just like the outro of Joyride just felt like a really cool way to close an album to me. So like there was a part of me that I heard those two songs and I was like, okay, I can kind of hear these as like the beginning and the end.
Mhm.
And now it's a matter of like filling it in. And I'm glad that we stuck to that. I'm really grateful that like not only Adam and Ty, but also Brett, who we recorded the record with, he produced it. He had a hand in kind of how everything flowed too, and like, some of those creative decisions that were made. So I'm really grateful to them that they continued to entertain that idea that I initially had of like having one more song be the first one and Joyride be the last. It wasn't like a hard set thing that I was like, we have to do this, but I'm really glad that it ended up that way because I think it's cool.
Absolutely.
And then yeah, I don't know how we like decided the sequencing from there on out. It's like really the only thing that I could distinctly remember was that, or a couple things. One was that End of the Gun into Spit. That was like, I kind of wrote those songs together as like, because I finished End of the Gun. Like I said, it was started much earlier. But I finished that, and then it was like I found myself wanting to like write this part that like kind of felt like a breakdown to me, and then and then I realized I'm like, oh, this is just like the start of another song, which is what Spit was. It was the main riff of Spit, because it was like I had this idea that I was like, oh, I want to like stop uh End of the Gun, and then like do quick pause, and then do like this end breakdown. But I was like, oh no, let's just like have that be the main riff of the next song. So I kind of wrote that as like a two-parter, but I didn't initially think like, oh, like this two-part sort of thing is going to be at the beginning of the album. But then it did end up being that way, and I was actually really happy because I thought it was cool how like one more song is like, sort of like the halftime, um, high energy, but like halftime beat sort of song that goes right in. It keeps the energy high, going right into End of the Gun, and then into Spit. And then you have like a little bit of a breather with the intro of Lay Down and Die. I don't know. It's all just kind of like, I think we have a good sense of like appropriately sort of like taking the listener for a ride. And sometimes that ride has more ebbs and flows and like peaks and valleys and stuff. Like I feel like Freak of Nature is a lot of like up and down. It starts down with Practice in the Mirror, but like it's very kind of like up and down. But this time we kind of wanted to keep the energy generally higher, and I guess sort of some of the main things I remember was like the two-parter with End of the Gun into Spit, and then I remembered wanting to put Can't Slow Down in the middle of the album because we were thinking, okay, midway through the album is generally in the past where we've kind of felt this impulse to like take the energy down a little bit and give the listener a breather of sorts. So we're like, okay, let's do the complete opposite of that and make the fastest song that we ever
Logically.
have. Yeah. So I do remember that, and then I also just remember we got kind of stumped for a little bit, and we're like, where in the track listing do we put the Gallows? That was really hard because like I generally like the songs. If a song ends on a certain note and then it like the next song, like I don't know if it's like a theory thing. If it's like if there's a note that's like relative to another note and it like is more satisfying when it like goes from that to that.
Yeah.
I don't,
Yes.
I don't know. Like there is a part of me that's like cognizant of that. I don't let it like completely guide everything, but I like when it's like you can kind of listen to it all and it's like these pieces that are flowing into each other and kind of
Exactly.
having a conversation with each other.
It's like a hidden transition. It's fucking
Yeah.
It's so satisfying. Yeah.
I think the sequencing is so important. It's like whether you do that by how you actually write the songs and how they're where they end up, or if you make use of like interludes or anything like that. I think it's all important. But I just remembered we were all kind of stumped. We're like, where's the Gallows gonna go? Because it was like this kind of like oddball song that felt like it does like the shuffle beat that we like haven't done before. It's like very poppy, but still hard hitting. And we're like, where does this fit in all of this? And then one thing that I distinctly remember that Brett suggested um, in regards to that song, he's like, well, I think you guys are stumped because you're like you're trying to like like I guess like you're trying to like place this song the same way that you're placing all the other songs, and like thinking about it in how it's related to the other songs. It's like the way that I kind of look at it. This song you can put anywhere because it's like because it doesn't because it's not like, oh, it has it's in the same key as this song, so like it would flow perfectly. He's like his advice was, you guys don't have to overthink this because you can kind of put it wherever and it's gonna make sense. So I forget exactly what number it was. I think it was 9 or 10, track 10, I think. But yeah, I mean those were just like the particular things that I remembered with sequencing that that I remember, sort of the main conversation points that we had. It was also entertained at one point, the idea of having "Quit While I'm Still Ahead" is track 1.
Okay.
Just because it starts with that guitar riff and just like very high energy right away, which I'm like, that could be cool. And the opening lyrics of it are, let's get this show on the road. So it's like, I think it could work, but I am glad that One More Song ended up being the opener.
You had to take it.
And so in relation to that, with like "Quit While I'm Still Ahead," I think thematically it sort of ties into like, okay, having it be, you think that it would be, because it also sounds like it could be a closer. But then we're like, well, let's have it be second to last, where you would normally think it would make sense to have one more song like before the encore, so to speak.
Yeah.
But then we're like, oh, let's have "Quit While I'm Still Ahead" be second to last, and then the song ends with the words "Quit While I'm Still Ahead," but then it has one more song. Yeah. Which is actually not One More Song. It's Joyride.
Yeah.
It's Joyride. God damn it.
That's great.
Yeah. It's a whole puzzle.
Yeah, we have fun here.
Yeah, we have fun here.
It seems like it. Yeah.
It's all a weird little fucked up puzzle.
Hell yeah. It keeps me interested.
So where is your headspace at while you guys are writing the record?
My headspace has been in a very good place. Contrary to what some people might think, listening to some of the record, they think like, oh, it's all doom and gloom about death. This guy's got to be, pretty miserable right now and very depressed. And it's actually quite the contrary, because like my life has been very good lately. I mean, I'm not gonna front with anyone. I got to keep it 100. I'm not gonna pretend to be like, oh, I'm like this tormented, depressed soul that's like, churning out these like emotional bangers. It's not like, I am very happy, and my life,
it's good to hear,
has been, thank you. And my life has been very good. I really don't have a whole lot to complain about, because I get like, this is the dream, right? I'm in a band, and that's like my job. So like, I can't complain about that. There are things that I can complain about along the way, but overall I'm very like happy with where my life is at. But ironically enough, when I started writing songs for this album, I feel like kind of being in that positive, and like content, creatively fulfilled headspace that I've been in, it's kind of freed up some space for me to be able to like ponder the dark side a bit more, in a way that I haven't before. Because a lot of my life leading up till like my late 20s and mainly my 30s, I'm 32 now, and to any of our young fans listening, it gets better. My 30s have rocked. I think like my 30s so far have been better than all of my 20s.
Damn straight.
Cumulatively. So like, I don't know, it gets better. You don't have to look at it as like, oh, I'm getting old. It's like, I don't know. I feel like, oh, shopping cart just drilled that car. Oh no! It's heading towards me now.
No!
Oh, it's okay. I'm safe.
The play-by-play is crazy.
Oh man,
that
was scary. That was
a close one. Couldn't have done anything about it though.
Okay, yeah. So as I was saying, my 30s have rocked, and life is good. Like, I feel good. I feel like in the past there have been times where I've been very depressed and miserable. But one thing that I've kind of learned as my life has progressed, it's like it's not even necessarily that I wouldn't even go so far as to say that like I'm necessarily better at handling at handling things, or like that I've like amassed this wellspring of knowledge to like deal with my shit. It's more it's just that like it feels lighter now because I've dealt with stuff before. You know, it's like it's what there I think there's a saying that kind of like encapsulates that sentiment. It's like it's not that it's not that the weight is lighter, it's just easier to hold or something. I don't know. But like that's kind of how that's kind of how I'm feeling at 32. It's like I'm feeling good um about where my life's at, and you know what we've done, what we've accomplished. I feel as though in many ways I've lived multiple lives. And I think about when I was 9. Sorry if it's loud, like it's raining now.
No, you're good.
No, can't hear it.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
I feel as though in many ways like I've lived multiple lives. Like I think back to when I was like 18 and 19, uh, or I guess in the sense of like music, um, when I was, let me think. I think the first time that I ever like went on tour, I was 17, maybe 18. But like even from then till now, it feels like a completely different timeline. It feels like a lifetime ago.
Mm-hmm.
So man, it's really coming down now.
Good
But
man.
I I feel great, and I feel like I feel like I'm in a very generally good headspace. And I obviously, just like any other human, still have my days, and like there are days where, you know, I'm not as with it. But
Mm-hmm.
comparatively to like my early 20s,
Mhm.
it's so much better. You know, I feel great. I feel like my the worst days that I have now are better days of my early 20s.
That's good.
So can't really complain there. But I do feel like in a sense, being in the headspace that I'm in, I've been able to approach, you know, like topics like musings on death and darkness. I've been able to approach it differently because I'm not presently down in it to where I'm like, yeah, I want to die, or I'm like super depressed or whatever. Like it's one thing to be depressed and be like, okay, I'm going to write a song about being depressed. But I think that it comes off differently when you're like, okay, I've been depressed before and now I'm not depressed, but I'm able to reflect on it differently.
Yeah.
I think that I don't know, that's kind of where I'm at, and that's how where the headspace I've been in with all this has been you know, that of feeling a little bit of detachment because I'm not like, you know, sitting in my room with like blackout curtains, you know, and burning candles wanting to die.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like all doom and gloom like that, but it's I still feel like it's, you know, authentic and genuine in the sense that like I'm tapping into, you know, sort of real feelings and at times anxieties and insecurities and what have you. But it's all still stemming from a genuine place. It's just not um, it's not as it's hard to exactly pinpoint, but it's not coming from a place of presently feeling like I'm writing a song about death because I want to die. It's like it's more so like I don't know, being a little past the clearing.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Happy to hear that, for real.
Damn
Yeah.
straight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this one should be super, super quick off the top of your head. I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
Okay. Energetic,
Okay.
Okay.
dark,
Okay.
catchy.
Damn straight.
Those are good.
Damn straight.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And for this last question, boom, you're on a desert island. You can bring one movie, one album, and one person. Who and why are you bringing?
One movie, one album, one person. That's tough.
Yeah.
I'd say movie, just because it kind of popped into my head first when you said movie. One of my favorite movies is The Silence of the Lambs.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess I'd say that. I don't know. No, like particular reason. I just think it's a great movie.
Fair enough.
Nice cheery movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Keep it light.
Yeah.
Just like fun for the whole family at any time, especially on a desert island.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, I don't know. I just think that that movie. It's like whenever it's one of the few movies that we have this joke within Heart Attack Man that I don't watch movies because like in conversations we've had, we'll be like, oh, have you seen this movie? And like everyone on Earth apparently has seen certain movies.
I feel the same way.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, I haven't seen that movie. They're like, how have you never seen this movie? I'm like, I don't know, because I haven't seen it. Have you seen this? And they're like, no, I've never seen it. I'm like, oh, so you don't watch movie. But it's like, it's been this ongoing joke that I don't watch anything. Which, I'll say it just isn't true.
Okay.
But
setting the record straight.
Yeah.
But I do watch movies. I'm here to squash the allegations that I don't watch movies. But I will say that Silence of the Lambs is one of the few movies that I've watched like a handful of times. Like I'd say the amount of movies that I'll like repeat watch is like, there are plenty of movies I've seen twice, but I feel like there's not as many where I've seen them more than twice. And Silence of the Lambs is definitely one of them.
Okay.
So I'd say that for movie, I guess. For album, that's really, really hard. I feel like that's an impossible question to answer, but I will give an answer.
Thank you.
Okay,
It won't be I'm gonna say it just because it's the closest I can get to being my Desert Island album.
Yeah, we're not shipping you there, so you're not locking anything.
I know.
Not today, at least. So you have time.
I would have to say. Could I have 3 different answers possibly?
Damn, I was gonna be like, okay, 2. No, you want fucking 3?
I'll take 2. I'll do 2. I'll do 2.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
It's still so hard.
Okay, just do 3. Just do 3.
No. I'll do 2.
Okay.
I'm gonna do "And Justice for All" by Metallica.
Okay.
And I go back and forth between what my favorite Metallica album is all the time. I feel like presently my favorite is the Black Album, but I'm gonna go with "And Justice for All," just because I feel like that I've spent more time with that one as my favorite. And Metallica is just one of my favorite bands, so I would say "And Justice for All" is choice number 1.
Okay.
And then choice number 2 that you both have so graciously allowed me to have is going to be "OK Computer" by Radiohead.
Okay.
I think it's just a masterpiece. It's so good. I don't know. That is. I feel like if I have "And Justice for All" and "OK Computer," I can cover a good amount of moods.
Yeah.
Listening moods.
I would say so.
I guess if I had to pick between the 2, I would pick "And Justice for All."
Logically.
So I guess
Hell yeah.
Short answer, "And Justice for All." Long answer, if I'm allowed to have 2, I'll add "OK Computer" into there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But man, that is a devious question.
And person. You still haven't picked the person you're bringing.
Still have the person.
I got to pick the person. Obviously, my girlfriend.
There you go.
Yeah.
Locked in.
There you go. That was the easiest. That was the easiest part of the question.
Yeah. Sorry to literally everyone else in my life, but I'm picking Eva.
There you go.
Fair enough.
Easy.
So as I said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Not really. No, I mean, I guess just the album and the tour, but that I feel like that's kind of like assumed to a degree.
Yeah. All right.
There you go.
Well, thank you for styling. It's been Eric from Heart Attack Man, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.